Welcome to our Sentinel Week 4 high school football preview. I'm Perry Mattern alongside Jake Adams as we get set for another exciting slate of games. We had a lot of trouble picking our three marquee matchups of the week as we look at the slate that we have here coming up on Friday night around the Mid-State. And let's start with the game that just missed the cut in the key game sections. Cumberland Valley at CD East. Cumberland Valley and CD's both 3-1 on the year. The Eagles coming off a big win over Harrisburg.
Yeah, and that was not necessarily a shocker, but it shows how balanced this division is going to be. We don't know who's going to come out on top by any means, and here we got two 1-0 teams already vying for an early lead. Whoever it looks like jumps out earliest might have the best shot in this division.
Both of those teams high up in the early edition of the District 3 power ratings. Mifflin County at Carlisle. Mifflin County 1-3, Carlisle 2-2, and Carlisle after the hot start last week, the offense really never got into gear.
Yeah, and that was the question we had watching them for the first three games: is will this offense be able to keep up in the Commonwealth? And through 1 week, the answer was no. But they got a Mifflin County team that isn't as stout against the defenses as some of the other teams in this division will be. So this might be a good confidence boost for them, but they really got to, I've stressed it before, get this ground game going.
Home game for the Thundering Herd as they look to get back over 500. Susquehanna Township at Redland, maybe the most disappointing team in the Keystone against the most surprising team in the Keystone. The Indians are 0-4, meanwhile Redland 4-0. And Susquehanna Township, they've got some players. The Patriots are going to have to be ready.
Yeah, Ben Moser's had a nice breakout year for him. He's already at or near basically every passing mark he had at this point at any point last season, I should say. 7 TDs thrown, 733 yards through the air as well. So Redland's really going to have to make sure that they step up and stop him, because this isn't the same Ben Moser they faced a year ago.
Keystone against Colonial matchup, Mechanicsburg at Shippensburg, and the Wildcats have continued to move the ball very well. They're very balanced, passing and running the ball. Tyler Schubert throwing and Cheyenne Brown running. So now they need to take this on the road against a Shippensburg defense that has been pretty stout.
Yeah, and the defense has been great. The problem is their yard seems to be so high, but it's because that offense never stays on the field for them. So the defense just keeps getting worn down, which could be a recipe for disaster this week going up against such a high-powered Wildcats offense.
We'll see if the Greyhounds can keep them in check. Waynesboro at Northern. Waynesboro, we don't really know a whole lot about this team other than the fact that they got beat pretty good last week by Cedar Cliff, but it also seemed like the Colts maybe played their best game of the year last week. Meanwhile, Northern, an impressive win down at James Buchanan, 21-7.
And even we don't really seem to know much about the Polar Bears. They got blown out 2 weeks ago by Mechanicsburg, so here's kind of a game for both these teams to kind of set the stage for what they might be in this division early on, and this could go a long way for the rest of the season.
Middletown at West Perry. The Mustangs still looking for their first win of the year. Maybe it comes here. Middletown struggled pretty badly last week in a 15-point loss to Boiling Spring.
Yeah, and that was a little bit surprising there. Obviously, the Bubblers are riding a bit of a hot streak right now, but we didn't expect, I don't think, to see that big of a loss for Middletown. Again, here with West Perry, can this defense stop them? Boiling Springs did it against Middletown. They're not the most high-powered offense out there, but West Perry hasn't proven it yet.
Another very good game that would be a good one for anyone to go watch will be Camp Hill and Milton Hershey. Now the Lions, you could argue that they haven't been tested yet. They're 4-0, maybe have not played a team. They certainly have not played a team as good as Milton Hershey is, who is 3-1. Milton Hershey coming off a dramatic 1-point overtime win against Steel High. And let's see what this offense can do for Camp Hill. Milton Hershey defense is pretty good, and there's a guy named Keontae Lucas.
Yeah, and they're going to have to – Camp Hill's defense, I think, has been a little bit underrated this year as well with how much the offense has put up. So to go up against a guy like Lucas, I should say, they really got to – this is going to be a proving ground game for both sides of the ball here. If they can both play the games that they've played through 4 games, this could be a nice win for them.
Big capital matchup there. Down in Newville, James Buchanan against Big Spring, and the Rockets kind of back in their old ways. They really struggled after a breakout year last year. They're 1-3, Big Spring 2-2. Started well, and then now it has been pretty much the exact opposite. They had a close win and then a big win to start the year, and now it's been a close loss and then a big loss last week to Greencastle.
It kind of seems like they got a little bit of the life sucked out of them in that loss to Boiling Springs. There's still a lot of question marks behind this offense there. They got the running game in the 2 Tristans, but the passing game isn't there yet. They can get a little bit more balance. This Rockets defense is solid. not the greatest, but they're good enough to stop the Bulldogs if they don't watch.
Tri-Valley matchup and in Halifax, Susquehanna against Halifax. Both teams 0-4. Susquehanna, I think you would argue, definitely based on looking at the schedules that they have been tested. They've played some good teams, and then last week, just the extra points. They really did them in a 3-point loss to Pine Grove.
And that's kind of upsetting because they just finally proved that their offense was starting to come together a little bit, and here they are, put up 3 touchdowns for the first time in the season, and they couldn't get any sort of production after the touchdown. So I guess it's kind of baby steps for this program, but it's got to be a kind of game where they're trying to bounce back as best as possible.
Michael Newmayer really was involved in the offense last week for the Blackhawks. Let's see if that continues. On to our 3 key games of the week. First, in Lower Dauphin, Keystone matchup at Hershey Park Stadium. Cedar Cliff against Lower Dauphin, and the Colts have progressively gotten better on offense. Grant Brenneman, Jaden Demi with a career game last week. And meanwhile, Lower Dauphin is right back to where they were last year. It's all about the defense for them.
And this is going to be probably the biggest matchup for the Colts, I think, since week 1 when they faced Penn Mattern. Both these teams, Lower Dauphin and Cedar Cliff, are up there at the top of the District 3 power rankings now. So here's going to be a battle that we might see again in the postseason if the cards play out right. Nice story out of the Colts there is Grant Brenneman, their sophomore quarterback now, has gone from 30% completion percentage against that really good Penn Mattern defense to now he's thrown for, on the season, 60% completed. He's completed 75% a week ago, I believe, and what was looked too easy for that offense against Waynesboro. Lower Dauphin, though, don't sleep on them either. This offense can match them point for point.
A lot of ground and pound there from the Falcons. Second key game, Greencastle at East Penn, and we wrote the capsule for this game, and there's no championship games in Week 5.
No.
But this one feels like it because these two teams have been so much more impressive than anyone else in the Colonial Division, and you have the feeling that the winner of this game is in the driver's seat.
Yeah, especially with the way things have kind of played out in the division. Shippensburg doesn't seem like their previous self in the past 2 years.
Not what they were when they won the title last year. Right.
And obviously, Big Spring looked good to begin with, but we didn't know if they were actually a serious threat. So right now we're looking at a 2-horse race, and this could be basically the game that decides it. So I ended up going over to East Pennsboro to talk to their coach this week and get his take on the season thus far and preparing for Greencastle. All right, we're here with Coach Todd Stuter from East Pennsboro. All right, Coach, you guys are in a bit of a crazy division so far, 4-0 for you guys, Greencastle as well. And just talk about how you guys think you are so far setting up in the division.
We're obviously pleased where we're at, 4-0, but we got some tough sledding ahead. Greencastle is just watching on film. They got an incredible team, and some other tough games down the road. Big Spring, Northern. There's no Waynesboro, James Buchanan. There's no one we can take for granted the rest of the way. So.
Yeah, and talking about Greencastle, they got 2 good running backs there. A third one as well with over 100 yards. I mean, talk about trying to stop that offense.
Well, they run, the wing tee, and it's very complicated offense. And it's and like you said, any one of those 3 can take the ball. The quarterback can run, and they set up their passing game right off of their run play. So we have our work cut out for us.
Offensively, you guys got Brighton Fegley, who's been the focal point all year, and that's no question there. But this Greencastle team's got a defense averaging just 11 points allowed a game. What do you guys got to do offensively against them?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, it's going to be hard for us to get Brighton loose. That's our goal. But we'll see what we can do. That's all I can say at this point. Until we line up and against them, it's hard to say how it's going to work out for us.
All right, thanks, Coach.
Okay.
All right, we want to thank Todd Stuter for taking his time out to talk to us about this game. And East Penn gets this one at home, which could also be a key for them. Brighton Fegley has been great, and then also Kyron Dennis has been pretty good. But this Greencastle run defense, 19 yards allowed on 24 carries to Big Spring last week.
And that was against a very good rushing attack there. But as you saw last week, there might not be anyone quite like Fegley right now, at least in our area. So this will be a good test for both sides. Can Fegley keep this up, and can Greencastle prove they can stop him?
Moving on to our game of the week, Trinity at Boiling Springs, as voted on by you, the fans. This one will take place at Boiling Springs High School. Trinity has been hot and cold. Boiling Springs has been cold, then hot. Yeah,
and it's kind of surprising just the way both things have played out, because you can make the point that these teams should be 3-1. They should be 1-3. I mean, they've had a really tough slate of games so far. Trinity, I think, has got to be the most beaten up team out there of the 14 teams that we cover. The one loss that they had a couple weeks ago was just one of the most
devastating.
And now they're trying to prove that they're better than their record is, and it's very possible that they are. So this is going to be a really big one for the Capital Division, just to see, because that one might be the most wide open division we have.
Boiling Springs coming off of a 1-win season 2 years ago.
Yep.
Then last year 2 wins. They already have 2 wins. This would be a huge win for the coaching staff, Nate Fryer and his coaches, as they try to continue to build this program back in the right directions. 3 consecutive wins, and then who knows when you get into the rest of that Capital Division.
Yeah, and they've got this offense clicking now with John Vaughn. Another 200-yard game. We mentioned it on Monday in our recap video, and it seems like they've got. If they can get this offense going, the defense will do its job. It's a tough enough unit that they'll succeed some points a little bit, but not a ton. And if the offense can just stay with it, this could be a very, very close game, and it will be fun to watch.
It will be a really fun one to watch. Now, each week in our recap, we've been naming our 3 Sentinel stars. So now we decided, let's look ahead. Maybe pick one that we might be talking about after the weekend. And I'll start in the Middletown at West Perry game. I like Jacob Owens a lot. 19 catches, 377 yards this season. Somehow he hasn't found the end zone. And the Mustangs really eager to get that first win. I think he could have a big game.
Yeah, and that would be, it's kind of surprising a kid that's averaging basically 25 yards a catch, I believe it is, hasn't found pay dirt yet. I mean, you don't see that very often. There's guys with 3-4 yards per reception that have already found pay dirt in the season, and here he is still looking for it.
At East Pennsboro, they got a key game there, and going to your Sentinel star, Brighton Fegley has been the show, but because of that Greencastle run defense, we might be hearing a lot about TJ Stallman.
Yeah, I wanted to go against the grain with that one. Obviously, it's Fegley's been getting the headlines, but Stallman, I think, has been a little bit underrated for them this year. He's not asked to do a lot, but it seems like when he does, and you can probably test this a little bit last week, when he is tested, he does seem to come up enough, at least, for this team. Don't want to use game manager all the time, but in high school, I mean, if you have a game manager at quarterback, it's a pretty solid thing to have. He's 29 of 45, 5 TDs, 368 yards, doesn't throw too many interceptions. This offense doesn't give up the ball too much, and if they're going to have success against Greencastle, Greencastle's going to key on Fegley, obviously, as every team's going to at this point. So it might be Stallman's game where maybe he sneaks in there with a big game.
Make sure you tune back into us on Monday. We will have our recap video, including the loser of our bet of the week, which we will disclose then on Monday based on our picks. We got pretty competitive with them after last week. I went undefeated. You picked on 7 of 11. So we'll see how it goes this week. And then also you can check out our picks in our football tab on Friday morning.